What's up? What's up? What's up? Hello, YouTube. Welcome back to another episode of Real Talk Therapy with your girl Ebony. And I told y'all I'm gonna keep practicing and working with this thing so I can try to show my entire ensemble. Today I have on another custom made shirt, olive green Coach fanny pack, as well as a book bag you'll be able to see here in a little bit. And if you haven't guessed by now, fatigue and different shades of olive and green are one of my favorites. And I have on my trusty Air Max today. But before we delve into and I sit down and we get into the remaining of our discussion for today, wanted to kind of zoom in on the custom made shirt. And I don't know if you guys can see it or not, but it says, "We consistent, the streets commended." And again, that's a Lil Wayne verse from the same song, Wasted, on the No Ceilings album. And what that did for me was it motivated me to be consistent with what it was that I wanted to do. And we all have to be consistent with anything that we end up doing, or, you know, any ventures that we go out on when we're seeking to go on these journeys and finding ourselves. We have to be consistent with sticking with it no matter how hard it gets. And that goes with anything in life. So I am going to position on over and get right back started. So in my ability to try to learn how to use this good stuff, y'all bear with me. Let's see here and get it. All right, I think this is where we want it. Let me see, so I can see if this is good. I think it is. But at any rate, my olive Coach bag. Again, I love Coach. I guess I can't go ahead and say I might have a slight addiction to Coach, but hey, we'll talk about that at a later date. So today we are going to continue our venture into mental health disorders, looking at Winnie the Pooh characters, looking at the last three characters that I wanted to focus on before we get to the main character, which is Christopher Robin. And so just a little recap. We talked about Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2 with ADHD, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. We talked about some characteristics of that, how it can be prevalent in adults and in children. And then we went into some generalized anxiety when we talked about Piglet, and some depression when we talked about Eeyore on yesterday. And I do want to say that when dealing with these, there are all different kind of characteristics that go along with these mental health disorder diagnoses. And one of the things with all of them can be some type of mood disorders, or some type of irritability. You know, we can be pretty cranky and pretty mean when going through some of the symptoms of some of these mental health diagnoses. And so I did want to say that even with depression, it's not always down. You know, you're not always down. People can put on a mask and function and make it through the day, even when they're dealing with their depression. And so those are things that I do want you guys to just kind of keep in mind, that we're just doing a generalized summary of all of these things, okay? So today we're going to go ahead and sum it up with the last three kind of the main characters, because as the creator of Winnie the Pooh went on and passed this vision down, more characters came in. But I'm just looking at the original Winnie the Pooh characters that came about during the beginning of all of this. And so we want to talk about Al. So, the owl, if you've ever noticed the owl, he knows everything. He's the only person in Winnie the Pooh and those world, I think it's called 100 Acre Woods. He's the only person that knows how to read. But the irony of that is that he can read, but he can't spell. So he got a little bit of dyslexia. But because he's so narcissistic, because he has that one thing over the other characters, he doesn't even realize that, the 100 Acre Wood or 100 Wood Acre, the words are spelled wrong. And so I want you guys to go back and look at that on Pooh. Even though he's the only one that can read, a lot of the words and things that he does is spelled wrong. But he is, he's knowledgeable. He can read or write. You always see him with a little pad. So he's the one that makes those little signs, and he seems to be the one that's educated, and everything he knows. They go to him because everybody thinks that the owl knows everything, not realizing that the owl represents a narcissistic personality disorder. And some of the features of a narcissistic personality stem from individuals that have a grandiose sense of self-importance. Grandiose is bigger than life. You've done something, but they've done it bigger and better and farther and harder and higher and lower. Everything about them is grandiose. They report fantastical, unlimited powers of success, intelligence, or beauty. One of the biggest ones is I encountered an individual who was determined to try to tell someone else how to run their business, but they didn't have a business. So, and they've had businesses before, or they'll tell the tales of, oh, I had this great home improvement company, and we were the biggest home improvement gig in town, and Lowe's wanted to hire me and my staff and this, that, and the third. But by the time I encountered them, you had nothing, and you were working at the same company that I was working at. And so I didn't realize at the time that this individual had a tad bit of narcissism in them. But it also demonstrates a powerful need to be recognized, admired, and adored. Becomes angry and resentful when wishes, wants, and needs are not met immediately by others. I'm going to say that little part again. If what they want and what they think they're entitled to, and 9 times out of 10, they're entitled to absolutely nothing. If that doesn't happen for them, then now they're angry, they're mad, it's the end of the world. Ain't nothing going their way. And so now they have temper tantrums like babies. Hence, Owl, when things doesn't go his way in Winnie the Pooh, or when one of them discovers that he doesn't know everything that he's portraying himself to know. They verbally enjoy downing others. They get a sense of gratitude or sensation when they're putting somebody else down. They don't mind tearing other people apart. They don't mind trying to make other people look bad. They're overly demanding in interpersonal relationships, having little empathy for the needs, wishes, and wants of their significant other. Come on, y'all. This is real talk. We all know somebody like that. A friend, a boyfriend, a husband, a girlfriend, a wife, a sister, a brother, that, everything has to be about them. And if the attention shifts for just a small little second, they can't handle it. And now they're mad at whomever they feel like stole their limelight, when really and truly, come on, dog, everything can't be about you. And so with Al, he suffered with that because he thought look, I'm smarter. I can read. I can do this stuff that they can't do. So, this at the end of the day, this has to be about me. Pooh can't be the star in this cartoon. I'm the star. This has to be about me. And so with narcissistic traits, one of the biggest things when that individual encounters having to face some of those things is being able to look at themselves and knowing that they are not as grandiose as they seem to think. They are not as grandiose as they want to think. They are not, all of that they put on, because, y'all, we're human and everybody falls short. Everybody, makes a mistake. Everybody struggles in some form of fashion with something. So when you encounter a narcissist, 9 times out of 10, you may end up suffering from one of these other mental health disorders that we've already talked about, because they try to minimize you. They try to make you feel less than. They try to, tear down everything that they see you doing, because they don't know how to handle not being the center of attention all the time. And that is a real life DSM-5 diagnostic disorder. And it should and can be treated. Okay? So next, we are going to move over to my girl Kanga. So Kanga, we all know, she's an extremely overprotective mother. So she's Rue's mom. And different studies say that Rue has autism. I didn't really get into the study of Rue because, autism is a whole nother spectrum. There's a whole lot of other things that go in with that. Plus, in due time, I want to bring someone on to talk more about that's more knowledgeable in that area than I am. So we're not going to touch Rue, but we're going to talk about Rue's mom, which is my girl, Kanga. I'm sorry. Let me get where I'm going with Kanga. So anyway, she's obsessed with controlling her young son. She very rarely lets him out of that pouch. And we do know the characteristic of a real kangaroo, that's what the pouch is for, to protect their young, and all of that good stuff. So with Rue, she suffocates this kid because he wants to get out. He wants to, adventure. He wants to see some things that are going on in this 100-acre woods. He wants to be in the midst of stuff. He's a kid. But because Kanga is so controlling, she doesn't let him make any decisions for himself. She doesn't let him make any mistakes. And part of that, or a big part of that, comes from her having a social anxiety. She's very overprotective. She's just, I know what's best for him. I got him. And in the midst of that, some of those diagnostic features are overall patterns of social anxiety, timidness, hypersensitivity to the criticism or disapproval of others. So she doesn't take advice from others well when they try to encourage her to let him explore and do all of this things. She's like, nah, I got him. You worry about your own self. I got this. But it's really from a fear of the socialization of it all. So she's going to interact with them to a point. She's not always in the midst of everything. She's not always, she definitely doesn't have to be in the forefront. Matter of fact, if the spotlight is on her, she doesn't like it. And she has, it could be debilitating performances, avoidance of required demands, avoidance of situations that require a degree of interpersonal contact. So, we don't see a man. Where Rue Daddy at? As a kid, we weren't worried about that. So as I'm looking at this social anxiety that Kanga, the traits that she exhibits, it's like, where's your significant other, girl? What are you doing single? Why are you raising Rue by yourself? You know, and with social anxiety, it's so hard for us or for individuals to connect on a social level to where they're able to share even the most intimate portions of themselves. So, you know, poo people, if you aren't a poo person yet and you just Google an episode or two, try to find some that has Kanga in there and just kind of watch her interaction and how long she's actually on the scene and interacting. And with social anxiety, it can also come to a point where, you know, you're surrounded by people, but you still feel alone. You are, you know, around, and remember with generalized anxiety, Piglet exhibits some social anxiety too, because he's most comfortable when Pooh's around. You know, he can be around everybody else, but he's more of himself when Pooh is in the mix. When everybody else comes around, he's, you know, sheltered, shuttered, and kind of shut off. And like I said, Kanga hops on the scene with her boy Rue in her pocket, and when she done had enough, she hops right back off the scene with her boy Rue in her pocket. So that is Kanga. And last but definitely not least, and one of my favorites actually, is Rabbit. Rabbit, he never relaxes. He's obsessed with having everything organized. He simply cannot deal with having things out of order. It shows when he's gardening. So pay attention to Rabbit when he's in his garden. Sometimes Rabbit is raking up the same set of leaves and flowers and trees. Is just in that circle. And he's going with that rake. And we know rabbits are hyperactive anyway. We have some that live in our front yard. And I call them my pets. Now, I don't know if these are the same rabbits or not. Now, they look the same. But as I'm coming and going and I see these rabbits coming out of the woods, I always, you know, just kind of say, hey, where y'all going? Come on back home. What y'all got going on? But if that rabbit sees me walking out or senses any motion, they're gone. And so Rabbit has that nervous energy about him. He's recounting things. He's always rearranging. He's always in and out of everything that's going on when he's on the scene. He's in everybody's life. And he appears to be an annoyance to his friends because he always has something to say about what they have going on. And that's because he exhibits one of the major characteristics of obsessive compulsive disorder is having a say. Being in control of what's going on. Whatever the conversation may be, having the floor, you know, and then after he has the floor, he got to come back and have the floor again and say what he's already said in a whole nother way because he's obsessive with making sure he's heard. And so some of the behavioral characteristics of this are intrusive recurrent and unwanted thoughts, images, or impulses that distress and or interfere with your daily routine, your job performance, and your social relationships. Fails attempts to ignore or control those thoughts or impulses to neutralize them. So Rabbit doesn't want anybody to help him with those racing thoughts because he thinks that's how it's supposed to be, and everybody else is supposed to have this nervous energy, and everybody else should be hopping all over the place and rearranging and redoing and doing this and doing that like he does. He does not respect and or see the boundaries within his friendships or relationships because in his eyes, everything should be going his way. Acknowledges repetitive behaviors or excessive and uncontrollable nervous energy. Repetitive and excessive actions are done to neutralize or prevent discomfort. So people who suffer with obsessive, compulsive disorders are uncomfortable. They don't know how to interact with anybody else. They don't know how to kind of sit still and digest what others are trying to share or what others have going on because their mind is always racing. They can't sit still. They can't really, take some time out to try to understand what's going on around them. And so hence you have Rabbit always in this state. He's always kind of running around trying to correct everybody. He's very orderly and he's obsessive about it. And so some of us can exhibit a lot of these different behaviors, and it becomes a part of our makeup. It becomes a part of who we are and who we've become. But when you start recognizing these things within yourself to an excessive degree, if you're more nervous all the time than you are able to focus, or if you are more down and you don't want to be around people, when you start noticing the normal things that you consider to be characteristics of who you are, when you start recognizing these things kind of being more than what you're accustomed to, that's probably when you should seek the assistance of a licensed clinical professional. Hey, I need to have a conversation, because I used to be able to stay focused, get tasks done, do things in a timely manner. I wasn't a procrastinator. I used to be able to plan, I know who I used to be. But something happened and I'm not that person anymore. So now I need to have a conversation so I can find my way back to that level of functioning with my daily living activities that worked for me. Because right now, I don't know who I am. I don't know where I'm going. Alice in Wonderland. I don't know any of these things anymore. And so now I think it's time for me to have a conversation with someone so I can try to find my way back to who I am and to do what I'm accustomed to doing. So if you've recognized any of these things within yourself, or if you want to go and research these things a little more so that you can see all the characteristics, because remember, just in these episodes this week, I'm kind of touching the surface, because we're going to delve in deep with each one of these mental health disorders when we get to that time and to that place. Now, tomorrow, you do not want to miss the finale of going through these things and working through them with Pooh, because tomorrow we're going to talk about Christopher Robin. Now, remember, he's the kid who has all these toys, who's giving them these personalities and giving them all of these traits. And so if you haven't already guessed it, Christopher Robin has or meets the criteria for one of these mental health disorders as well. So I want to thank you guys for joining me today. I hope we didn't unpack too much, that it was just enough for you to really start looking at yourself and start trying to figure out, hey, do I fit in some of these boxes? Do I need to go have a conversation with a licensed clinical person to help me? Once again, guys, what are we doing? Navigating through these uncharted waters of our lives, because each day is a new day, something we haven't faced before, something we haven't dealt with before. So thank you guys so much for taking the time to continue to come back. I appreciate all of the subscribers. I appreciate all of you who like, comment, share. I really appreciate the support and all of those things. And so I want to continue to remain consistent so the streets can continue to commend it, and somebody can link me with Lil Tucci and definitely get me, with Coach. I'm looking for that sponsorship, Coach. I'm trying to tell you, ain't nobody out here coached out like me, I promise. But on that note, we're going to call it a day, call it a session, and you guys have a great one. Thanks for stopping by.